Good morning, everyone. My name is Kara Heitfeld. I'm with the Illinois Restaurant Association. I'd like to thank everyone joining today for being with us on this webinar, which is the topic of workers' comp, what to know when submitting a claim. During today's webinar, we will hear from a number of expert panelists at employers. Today's webinar is being broadcast in English, Spanish, and Mandarin Chinese. To listen in Spanish or Chinese, please use the interpretation button in your toolbar. This webinar is being presented today by the Illinois Restaurant Association, as well as the Cook County Small Business Source. The Cook County Small Business Source was established to ensure that businesses emerge from COVID-19 intact and positioned for growth. The Small Business Source connects small business owners with expert guidance and support. Services include no-cost business advising, resources, and events that connect small business owners with a community of advisors and each other. For one-on-one business advising, you can sign up at cookcountysmallbiz.org. It's free and very easy. And once you sign up, the Small Business Source will connect you with an expert from their network. And one of those experts in the network is the Illinois Restaurant Association. As you can see on your screen, we have a host of different people in the network that are ready to assist you and your small business going forward. And all of their contact information will be included as a follow-up to this webinar from us at the Illinois Restaurant Association, everyone in the network, as well as the Cook County Small Business Source. Before we get started here today with our expert panelists, I also want to remind everyone that myself here at the Illinois Restaurant Association and all of our staff remain committed and ready to assist small businesses, especially in the hospitality industry, to make sure that your business recovers fully and is able to thrive going forward. We're sending out regular email updates. So we invite you to go to illinoisrestaurants.org for any updates that you may need, resources. These are all free, as well as sign up for our newsletter so you are up to date with anything that you may need. We have pro bono legal advice, we have licensing experts, we have a host of different resources available to you. Now, for today's webinar, we have a Q&A button. It's at the bottom there of your toolbar. So if you have any questions, please type those into the Q&A button and we will get to those as it's topical and to the best of our ability. And if you already see a question that's typed in the Q&A toolbar that you like, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. So that way we can prioritize that question and we will get to those to the best of our ability. But a quick reminder that after this conclusion of this webinar, we will send out all this contact information, this deck and this recording, and it will live on the illinoisrestaurants.org website should you have any questions that we weren't able to get to. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists from employers. With us today, we have Kevin Osterman. He's the National Programs Manager at Employers. We have Richard Ansablian with Employers. He's the Field Claims Liaison, and Mike Prebeg, who is the Director of Premium Audit. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with Kevin Osterman. Kevin, take it away. Kevin, I'm not sure if we can hear you.
Kara, can you hear me now? Okay.
Okay.
I got kicked off the phone for a second.
Bit of an echo though.
Oh. Do you want me to try back in?
Let me. How's that?
Is this better?
Yep, that's great.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us on our call today. And thank you to the IRA for inviting us to join you on the webinar today. I just want to take a few seconds to introduce you to our work comp program that we have with the IRA. And then I'm going to hand the call off to Richard and Mike, and they're going to talk about claims in premium audit. So employers, so we're a workers' compensation insurance carrier. We've been around for about 100 years now. We started the program with IRA about 4 years ago, and we are a platinum sponsor and honored to be one of the founding donors of the Educational Foundation's Restaurant Employee Relief Fund. One of the benefits that come with being a part of the program is we're able to offer a 5% association credit to the members. There's 2 different ways that you can access the program. The first way is working with one of our appointed independent agents. And then the second way is working through our subsidiary company, Cerity. Cerity is our digital insurance agency. And Cerity is really for that small restaurateur that wants to purchase insurance on their own at any time of day or night versus working with an insurance agency. I do want to point out, though, that that 5% association credit, that's only available on the employer side, so working with one of our appointed independent agents. After the call, the presentation is going to be emailed out to everybody. Our contact information is going to be there. So if you have any questions on employers or the work comp program, just please reach out to us. And now I'm going to hand the call off to Richard, and he's going to talk about claims.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Richard Antavli, and I am the claims liaison for Employers Insurance. Today, I want to briefly talk about what to do before, during, and even after an injury occurs in the workplace. Prior to a claim, it is beneficial to talk to your staff regarding what to do when an injury actually occurs. If there's a certain person that should be made aware of the injury, like a supervisor or manager, make sure the employees know to reach out to them immediately. Important to have them know the injured workers shouldn't be ashamed to immediately reach out. We want them to feel comfortable about the workers' compensation process from the very beginning. This is something you absolutely want to convey, as timely reporting plays a key role in the outcome of a claim, but that's something we can get into a little bit down the line. What information do you need placed in your restaurant, and where can you find them? First, I would check with your carrier, specifically their website. For example, on our website, we have available to download and print the workers' compensation insurance notice and anti-fraud poster that needs to be posted in each location, such as a break room. If you have multiple locations, be sure to post these at each of those locations. You want to ensure you also have the appropriate forms printed out and ready in hand when a claim occurs, specifically the first report of injury form. I would suggest having these printed and ready to fill out, as you do not want to run around looking for these and delay the claim reporting process. In regards to how to report a claim, check with your carrier for all the preferred methods they provide. You may be able to report a claim via telephone, email, or online. With Employers Insurance, we prefer the telephone method, specifically our injured employee hotline that will triage the injured employee to the right level of care, whether that may be an urgent care or hospital, whatever level they may feel is appropriate at the time of injury. We'll get a little bit more about this on the next slide. Well, what if you, oh, you know what? Let's go back one slide. I'm sorry about that. Let's go back one slide quickly. I just want to quickly finish it off with, well, what if your carrier does not have a triage service? How do we know where to send an employee, right? Well, use your judgment on this. If the injury is life-threatening, call 911. If it is not, you can simply send the employee to an urgent care facility or call your carrier. We want to ensure the injured worker receives treatment right away. We can move to the next slide here. Benefits of utilizing a triage service. What makes the triage services different is that they are staffed by nurses and medical professionals using national guidelines to provide medical guidance over the phone. The injured worker will talk to a nurse directly instead of an insurance company, which can make them feel a little bit more comfortable at the beginning of this process. It is also a method to get the claim reported right away. One of the biggest roles it plays is a reduction in unnecessary medical office and emergency room visits. Take a look at this chart quickly. As you can see, that those results were the entire 2022 year of all the calls made to our triage line. 73% of those calls were guided to an urgent care. 23% of those calls were guided to self-care. If not for the hotline, a solid portion may have likely gone to an emergency room. And we all know what that could or would do to the cost and the time of that claim. We can move on to the next slide here. Let's discuss why timely claim reporting is so important. The first 72 hours after an injury set a precedent for how the end result may turn out. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to report claims right away. The workers' compensation process for treatment and authorization is not the quickest. So every day a claim is reported late, that is an extra layer of frustration the employee would build waiting for his or her treatment. What we don't want to do is have the employee feel their injury is not significant or doesn't need to be reported. We want them to have that feeling of ease about the process and make them feel like they're being taken care of right away. Not doing so can ultimately lead into litigation, something we all want to avoid to keep policy premiums and X-mods down. Speaking of litigation, I want to briefly talk about fraud in the workplace. Let's start with ways we can prevent fraud. Workplace culture is very important. It's a very important aspect of fraud prevention. If you make the employee feel comfortable in their job, in that environment, and taken care of on a day-to-day basis, you will see a decrease in claims, especially any fraudulent ones. What about what not to do? We don't want to tell the injured employee the injury is suspicious or fraudulent. We don't want them to feel we question them about the injury at all. Relay that information to your insurance carrier. We will investigate the claim based on the information provided and go through all these steps with you. This is why timely reporting is so important, especially in a suspicious case. Your carrier needs to gather all the witness statements, video evidence, and whatever additional information they have right away. Every day that goes by without reporting the claim decreases the chances to obtain the most accurate information of what occurred. We don't want witnesses to start forgetting specifics and key moments. We don't want video recordings to possibly be not available anymore. Video evidence plays a key role in a claim. If you do not have active video around your restaurant, I would absolutely suggest looking into this. In the court of law, everything is based on evidence. And if we have the evidence, we have a better chance at winning the case. So why do we want to prevent fraud? Well, fraudulent claims do nothing but hurt not only the cost of the claim, but also the length of that claim staying open. A carrier is focused on keeping costs down and closing files as quickly as possible, but with suspicious claims, we usually do not see that happening. These are the types of claims that really drive premiums higher. Well, why would you want to avoid claims in total, right? Well, the less claims on your policy, the less premium you pay, and the more time you have to focus on your business. This is why I emphasize a good workplace culture and keeping employees happy. We can move to the next slide here. Oh, sorry. I think that was the one there. So a structured return to work program. I know how tough staffing can be in a restaurant. The longer an employee is out of work, the tougher it becomes to fulfill that position. There are certain resources your carrier provides, such as a return to work program to help get that employee off the couch and back into work. In certain cases, when employees are on modified duty restrictions, it is tough to accommodate them in the workplace. I know that. These programs help get the employees up and back to work in certain nonprofit organizations, such as food banks or churches, to motivate them to get back to work. The longer they are off work and at home, the less motivation they have to actually return. Lastly, I want to touch on a few specific injuries I frequently see occur in restaurants. Back pain from lifting heavy items, finger cuts from sharp objects, slip and falls from a wet floor, and burns from hot oil or fire. If you see these injuries occurring frequently in your business, discuss this with your insurance carrier. See what resources they have to offer from a loss control or risk management perspective. For example, when we see repetitive injuries, we make sure our team discusses how to reduce these from occurring in the future. Please utilize the resources your carrier provides, as this will only cause a positive impact on your workers' compensation experience. That is all for me. Thank you very much. Now I'll be handing it off to our Director of Premium Audit.
Thank you
How's
so
it going,
much.
everyone? I'm the person that everyone wants to hear from, an auditor. Just kidding. Nobody wants to hear from an auditor. It's mostly like akin to going to the dentist, but it doesn't have to actually be a bad experience. So I'm going to go over just some of the things that why we do an audit and some of the things that are needed on an audit, and maybe discuss some pitfalls to look out for as we go through. You know, a lot of people go, well, why do we have to do an audit? What is it? What's a premium audit? At the beginning of the year for workers' compensation, your premiums are based upon estimate. You estimate the payrolls in both the restaurant and any additional such as clerical or delivery classification. We come in at the end and we true that up. to what was actually happened. So we compare the estimate to the actual numbers. Why do we do this? Well, the short answer is because we have to. The state requires us to. The state wants to base all their actuarial numbers on actual numbers and not the original estimated numbers. They develop rates because of that, and they also develop what's called modification factors for individual businesses based upon actual numbers. They don't want estimated numbers. So we do it because we have to. There's a lot of different ways to complete a premium audit. And we'll go through those more specifically during the presentation. Now, what happens if I don't complete the year-end premium audit? Well, the state wants actual numbers, and they want them really bad. So they require us to charge a pretty stiff penalty. It's a 3 times penalty for not complying. And what that means is that 3 times your estimated premiums is charged. Now, they don't want us to do that to make us rich, to have us collect that money. They call it an incentive, and it's an incentive to cooperate because they really want those actual numbers for their rate-making purposes. Also, though, your current policy, if you renew it, could be subject to cancellation due to non-cooperation with the premium audit. So it's important to do the audit. It doesn't have to be too bad, though. What do you do if you disagree with an audit? You write in and let us know what you disagree with. In Illinois, there's some protections for you guys. If you disagree with your audit and you get a response from us or any audit company that you disagree with, you can go to the Department of Insurance and have them review that response to see if they agree with it or not. But most of the time, people disagree on, hey, you've got the payroll wrong, and this is why. What's important is to not just send in a note that says, I disagree with the audit, but explain why. I don't agree with the payroll. I don't agree with the classifications that you came up with, or I don't agree with who the officers that are listed on the audit or owners. What happens after the premium audit? If you estimated too high at the beginning, you get a refund when compared to actual. If you estimated too low, you get a bill, an audit result with a bill. And so really how it works is you estimate it at the beginning, we come out at the end and we see how close that estimate was, and you either get a refund or you get an additional bill after. So on the next slide, I put records that you needed to complete your premium audit. Now this is a bunch of stuff on there. Let me make it more simple for you though. What we want is a payroll summary. And for whatever the audit period is, let's say you're January 1st to January 1st, you run a payroll summary for the year. That payroll summary should include things like the total payroll for each employee and for the policy period, overtime, double time, vacation pay, total payroll hours, tips, sick pay, and severance pay. And the reason we want that detail is because there's some things that are excludable that you don't have to pay premiums on. For example, the premium portion of overtime is not reportable for workers' comp purposes. And a big one for restaurants, tips. Tips are not reportable. So what we do is we'll go in and take your total payroll. We'll subtract overtime, the premium portion of overtime, and tip to come up with something called reportable payroll. Now, besides the payroll summary, we like to look at what's officially filed with the state or federal. These are the quarterly reports that you turn in each quarter, one to the state and one to the feds. The federal one is called the 941, you may be familiar with. And so we want a summary of payroll that shows some detail. And then we want those quarterly reports to make sure that it's verified, that summary is correct. We'll go to what types of audits we do. There's three basic types of audits that every insurance company basically does. One is a voluntary audit. Basically, you get something in the mail. We ask you to fill out a short 2-page form, and then we ask you to mail in those quarterly reports and those payroll summaries as backup. And someone will get that, and they'll from that information they'll determine what reportable payroll is, compare it to what was estimated at the beginning, and send you those audit results. Since COVID, we do another thing called the remote physical audit. And that's where a really experienced auditor will call you and go over that form that you sent in with a bunch of questions that they may or may not have. These are mostly for larger policies or policies that have complications to them in some way. Let's say that you got your policy and it only has restaurant as the only classification on the policy, but there's 5 claims for driving when someone was delivering something. We'll probably have someone call you and say, why do we have so many driving claims on here when we're doing just a restaurant? And then we have the on-site physical audit. That's when someone actually comes out to your business, inspects the business and completes the audit with the records there. Those are for the largest cases or the most complicated audits where there may be specific questions on what the operations really are. Is it a bakery or is it a restaurant? Things like that would require a really experienced person to come out and review the operations to determine the correct classification. The best part of it is if you're just, and we'll go on to the online premium audit thing, to avoid auditors, people like me, a lot of the hassle that we just talked about, you can also complete your audit with many insurance companies online. There's where we don't even have to see anyone or deal with an auditor. The online premium audits are processed and they're usually done much quicker. You could log in, fill out the interface, the form with specific questions, upload any backup documents required, and complete your premium audit in a pretty easy way. One of the things I'll caution is, if you get that letter that says there's an audit, and you put it to the side of all your stuff and say, I'll deal with it later, don't let it go too long. When you start getting those second and third notices, at least try to make some contact. That way we know that we're working on it and it doesn't get to a point where the audit is considered non-compliant. We don't want to go there. Almost all of the non-compliant audits process eventually cooperate, but you don't want to get a bunch of bills in between or get calls from the DOI that your policy was canceled because of non-cooperation. At least make a contact. And if you have questions, ask it. If you need some help, hey, I don't know what this means here. What's a 941? There's numbers on those forms that are mailed to you. We just call in and make that contact so we know that we're working on that audit. It is important to get it done because, like I say, we're required to charge a 3x penalty if we don't get that cooperation. So that's the basics of premium audit. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, I'm available.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. We really appreciate it. We actually do have some questions that have already come in on audits. So how long does a premium audit take typically?
It's really dependent on the complexity of the business itself. It could take 15 minutes. If all your records are there, you pull them out of a drawer, you take a copy and you send them in, along with filling out the form. If there's complications to the policy for whatever reason, I have a bunch of independent contractors, and I have to figure out whether it could take a couple hours to do that. Online premium audit, you can usually get done within 15 minutes to 30 minutes, though, and that would be the norm. Unless you're a very large policy, it does not take long to get all the stuff in.
Got it. That's good to know. And is a premium audit required every year?
Yes, it is. The state has a rule that says audits must be based on actual and not estimated payrolls. So we have to go out and get the actual payrolls. We can't use the original policy estimate on a policy. So every year we're required to do that audit per the state rules.
Got it. Thank you. And another question that came in that I'll send to Richard now is, what happens if a workers' comp claim is not reported in 72 hours?
Got you. Okay, so I want to take a step back on this one. So when the claim should be reported the same day, but the 72-hour period that I spoke about, that's the most vital in the life of the claim, those first 3 days. So if a claim is not reported on the same day, it could be reported, 6 months later. But if it's reported 6 months later, you could incur penalties. The claim can get into litigation. The injured worker will definitely build frustration for it. So there could be lots of problems if that claim is not reported right away. But the 72-hour period I was specifically talking about is that initial vital period where the injured employee goes to the doctor on day one, goes to get his prescriptions, make sure that those authorizations come into play, gets authorizations for physical therapy. So those first 3 days, when they feel like they're being taken care of and they're getting the authorizations they need and getting sent to the places that they need to go, that's where the employee will benefit from the workers' compensation process, and ultimately where you would benefit because that claim will just smoothly transition to closure.
Got it. That's very helpful. Thank you. Another question, Richard, for you we have that came in is, how do you ensure your restaurant is equipped to prevent potential workers' comp claims?
So that's a great question. This is where you're with your carrier, I would suggest discussing with loss control or risk management, see what resources they have to offer, because they can actually work with you and your restaurant to see if there's any improvements that could be made around there, or what exactly needs to be being taken care of or taken out. But definitely work with our teams or your carrier's team, and they will be able to help you out with that exactly.
That's great. Really good to know. Thank you. And we have another question I'm going to send to Richard. Do we need to report the claim if the employee doesn't seek medical attention?
So it is my suggestion to report all workers' compensation claims, all injuries that occur in the workplace. And why is that? Because yes, it might be not seeking medical attention today, but tomorrow, the next day, next week, they might seek medical attention. And if they do that, then we're already behind in our investigation, our recollection of what happened, multiple variables and items that we need to take into consideration. So it is always better to report a workers' compensation claim right away. And if it's a medical only or an incident only, and there's no treatment sought, great. We could jot that down for our records, note the claim, note the file, speak with who we need to speak about. So if that employee does go and seek treatment, there won't be any delays in that authorization, getting that employee over to treatment.
So no matter who their workers' comp insurer is, you recommend in general, always report it no matter if there's not a medical emergency right away?
Correct. No matter who it is, I recommend any injuries that occur in the workplace, better to report than not to report.
Got it. Thank you. Another question we have that just came in. What are the most common injuries or workers' comp claims that restaurants face?
Great question. This is one I did briefly touch on, and those would be here. So it is finger cuts, right? You get a lot of sharp objects, a lot of knives, a lot of cooks. Slip and falls. You have those slip and fall injuries when you are on, a lot of people going, sink water spilling, material spilling, slip and falls. back injuries from lifting heavy items. I see a lot of back injuries from that. And then another one is the burns, because, they got hot oil there. You got, fires there, stove tops. So those are a lot of the common injuries that I see in workers' comp.
That makes a lot of sense in a restaurant environment. What materials does someone need as a restaurant owner to file a claim?
Great question. So always consult with your carrier, reach out to them, give them a call if that's a method of reporting. Let them know, hey, I want to report this claim. What information do you guys need? Most of the time, all you really need is a first report of injury form to complete and fill out and sign. That's what they would need. But if it's done telephonically, they should be able to take that information over the phone. So nothing is absolutely needed right away. Just a simple call to your carrier to get that process started.
Thank you. Another question we have here is, does it go against your premium if a zero claim audit is filed?
That one is for Mike.
Does it go against your premium if a zero claim audit is what?
If a zero claim is filed, I think that means no
okay.
claims.
Yeah. Okay. The claims, the claims are reviewed on two different bases. One is the severity of the claim, which means the cost of the claim, and one is the other is how many claims are filed. And so when developing what's called your modification factor, two factors come into place: severity and the number of occurrences. There zero occurrences, zero payroll occurrences are a minor factor in the promulgation of what's called an EMOD, experience modification factor. The most larger one though is the severity of the claim.
Got it. Thank you. I actually have another follow-up question for you, Mike, that just came in. What if the employee doesn't want to report the incident and says they will handle it on their own? That might be for you, Richard.
Yeah, I could answer that one. So this is a frequent question, right? This happens often. My suggestion is to always let the employee know that you have a duty to report the claim. If they don't want to seek treatment, simply discuss that with the adjuster when they call, or the insurance company when they call. Let them know, hey, I'm okay. My employer just filed this on our behalf just to ensure that a claim was filed, but I'm going to seek and handle this on my own. So simple as that. But you want to still make sure that you report the claim and you do your duty to file that claim. And if they want to not seek treatment or take care of it themselves down the line, they could absolutely let the team know and the carrier know, and they can go from there.
All right. And another follow-up question here is, if the number of claims is a factor, what would the benefit be to filing the claim?
I believe I went over that. If someone does not report their medical injury till later, and so we decide not to file the claim, and then 2 weeks later someone says, I hurt my back and I'm really hurting, it puts everything behind the 8 ball on it. That covers you and the employee and the insurer to ensure that claim is legitimate.
Got it. That's very helpful. And another question we have is, what are the requirements, like by state law, Richard, is there any posters that you have to post, or is any other requirements by state law that are needed to post in the workplace?
That is a great question. And there are definitely state laws in place regarding posters. And these can be found on your carrier's website or directly talking to your carrier. They will let you know exactly the posters you need to place on the walls. But there are definitely posters specifically, especially in Illinois. For some reason or another, if you cannot get a hold of your carrier, which I doubt that would be the case, The state's website with workers' comp does have that material readily available for you to download and print. But there are about, I believe, 2 specific posters that need to be placed up, the workers' compensation and anti-fraud poster. And that could be found on either the carrier's website or the state website.
Got it. Thank you. It looks like that's all the questions we have now. This has been very informative. I want to thank everyone for attending, especially our panelists today. Want to also remind everyone that you will be getting a recording of this entire webinar, as well as the slide deck, and you'll have everyone's contact information should you have any other follow-up questions on workers' comp. And I also want to thank, before we end, Richard, Kevin, and Mike for being expert panelists today on a topic that I don't think anyone really wants to deal with, but is a very important and needed, mandated topic that every business owner needs. So thank you for your time today. And we appreciate everyone attending this webinar and want to remain a resource here at the Illinois Restaurant Association for everyone on this webinar today. We have numerous webinars coming up, as well as a resource from us at the IRA, and the Cook County Small Business Source also remains a resource. We invite you to sign up at cookcountysmallbiz.org. And I thank everyone for their time and attending, and I hope everyone has a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.